Anyway, yeah, it was just it just doesn't work. And then they put the worst thing that they possibly could have done in the entirety of horror franchises. They put a backstory between Michael Myers and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Which fans, mind you, now they don't understand. When you watch the first movie, you know, fans now will think, "Oh, Michael's going after his sister."
Yeah.
No, that idea was not there in the first movie. But people watch the first movie thinking that, you know, Michael is her brother.
Yeah,
but it was that thought wasn't there in the original Halloween.
Yeah, and it's just it's illogical, it's stupid, it doesn't work, and for some reason every filmmaker, like in the subsequent series afterwards, has taken off with that idea, the one idea that didn't work. If I were them, I would have ignored it and pretended that never happened, because that just was so stupid. It literally doesn't make sense that suddenly she's getting all these memories like, oh yeah, there was that.
I did visit him in the hospital.
Yeah, that stupid hospital scene. Like that was.
You know, I was hanging clothes with my mom when she told me she wasn't my mom.
Yeah,
I'm not your mother. Well, like, why would she come out and just say that?
Yeah,
give me that towel, dear. I'm not your mother. How about the socks?
And I was watching a documentary about the making of the first Halloween, last Halloween, and they had a lot of interviews with John Carpenter and whatnot, and John Carpenter was asked about the sequels in the documentary, and he said that he hated Halloween 2, he just couldn't understand why they put a backstory on. But did he not write? I thought he wrote that.
He wrote, him and Deborah Hill wrote it. What the hell was that?
Like, I was just like, what the hell are you talking? You wrote it. Like, unless the filmmaker was like, you know, it worked in The Empire Strikes Back, maybe. And then started
just because there's an element, you never know whose.
Yeah, exactly. I assume that's probably John Carpenter's.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Because he wrote it. He's the only credited writer.
No, him and Deborah Hill,
along with his partner. But it just ruins the movie for me. I'd give it a whopping 1.
Yeah, I'd go with 2 stars only for, ironically enough, in the summer 1989 when I was 12. Halloween 2 was my favorite of the first 2. I hadn't got to Halloween 3 yet because I think I knew that Michael wasn't in it, so I wasn't interested at the time. But Halloween 2 was my favorite of the 2, which is ironic. I loved Halloween 2, but it was because you're a 12-year-old and you don't care about the overall movie, or at least I didn't. You care about the freaking killer. And Michael Myers is much more of a kind of a, I think, a part of Halloween 2 than he is in the first one. You see him a lot more. He's more of a presence, I think.
Yeah, the first one he was a shadow. The second one
he was a shadow. He was a shape.
Yeah, he was a shape. In the second one he was a character.
Yeah, and that's why I loved the second one, because when you're 12, I didn't give a crap about the story or plot or the fact that the lead character was just comatose whole thing. I was just watched it for Michael, and then like 10 years later when I had the DVD, you know, I was like watching Halloween 2 with this fondness and this memory. I mean, I've watched it, I've seen it since in between them 10 years, but I just remember thinking in '99, this is stupid. You know, because I'm watching it through an adult's eyes, and I'm like, they just continue this. It's just such a, you know, Halloween 2 is one of the most apparent, evident sequels for the point of a sequel that there is, I think,
that was
because
totally cashing in on the success of the first one.
Yeah,
and they were like, well, it worked that Michael killed people. Let's have him kill 12.
Let's have him kill more people. Yeah. And the funny thing is, with the sequel of Halloween, you know, you can go only 2 ways, which is what they did, continuing it. One aspect of continuing right after is cool, but the other is stupid if your lead character, and she's actually the first billing in the movie, Jamie Lee Curtis, is comatose in the whole movie. I don't understand how they talked anyone. Well, because she was the star of the first one, that's the only thing.
She was contracted for it, I think. That was part of
the
problem.
Oh, really? If there was a sequel, she didn't have to be in it?
I think that's what it was.
You know, wouldn't have to necessarily do anything, just lay in bed. But it's just amazing. Or, I should add, which we'll go on to, which is the Rob Zombie approach, which makes more sense and is more interesting if you do the year later. I think in the theatrical cut of his, it was a year later, and the director's it was 2. But I just think if had John Carpenter done like the year later, I think where she could have, it might have been more. You might have been able to make it more interesting. than continuing the night, because how late is it by the time she gets to the hospital? It's like, it's not even Halloween anymore. It's November 1st.
That would have been a better title.
And
November 1st.
The sequel to Halloween, November. But the funny thing about Halloween 2 is there's so much, and actually in the Blu-ray, which just came out, I'd recommend it, by the way, if you're a fan, there's actually some deleted scenes which I've never seen, which there was all kinds of stuff cut out, like the latter half of the movie, the hospital's all dark, which I never questioned until I was like older. It's like, why is it all dark? And all the, you know, those lights are on, those ones that are like whatever, battery powered emergency lights. And it's like, well, they had this whole thing where Michael like cut the power or something. Well, he cut the power in the phones. The phones is in the movie still.
Yeah, I just assume he sort of did everything.
But that happened where all the lights go off during the stupid scene where like Laurie's in bed and they're trying to, she's like, don't put me to sleep. And like, give me the needle, Mrs. Nurse. And they're trying to put her to sleep, and it's this stupid scene which is on the Blu-ray, and then the lights flicker off, and everyone's like, but there's all kinds of like deleted scenes in 2 which are so stupid, you wouldn't even believe it. All right, so you know, the interiors only last a while until someone comes and
boots us out.
Well, they don't boot us out, but we're not gonna do them with people playing ping pong in the background. So we are out on our famous location, which is kind of chilly now.
Yeah, it's a bit chilly.
This is not going to work in January.
No.
So we were talking about how we're pretty much getting ready to finish up on Halloween 2 here, so I don't know.
I gave it 1, you gave it 2.
I gave it 2, just probably, if only just for the sentimentality surrounding, which you can understand about other movies like Harry Potter and stuff like that.
Certainly.
So there's just something about seeing something when you're a kid that just, you're always going to, you know, have something for it. Who was the one who started 2, the review on Halloween 2?
I started 2.
So I should start 3.
So yeah, you go 3. I did 1 and 2, you did 3.
Oh, you did 1 and 2. I'll continue with Halloween 3, which is something that when I was a kid I knew did not involve Michael Myers at all, so I had no interest. I can't even remember when the first time. When I was a kid, I had this friend in school who I was at his house, and it was actually Halloween in '89, and he put in Halloween 3, and he was kind of I don't know what he was, but all I know is he said that he was convinced that Michael Myers was in Halloween 3. So like at the very beginning when those guys in the suits, which turn out to be like those stupid robots with their, you know, orange juice blood, was in the car following that guy, he's like, that's Michael Myers in the car. You know, of course you can't see him well enough
holding on to the hope.
Yeah, I think he was, you know. You can't see him good enough to know that he's not, which unfortunately, you know. And I'm just like, but I don't know when I really actually saw Halloween 3, but I remember there's something that among people that are, I think, more my age now, who back in the days of Halloween 3 and Friday the 13th Part 5, they were just like, hated them. But I think that when a lot of us got older, we got the ability to more see kind of more into these movies, which are like the atrocities, which were, you know, in the day, Friday the 13th Part 5 and Halloween 3. And you know, back when I was a kid, I'd say, no, Michael Myers, just hell with it. But now I think that Halloween 3 is probably, it's weird because I shouldn't have called it Halloween 3. Maybe just I don't know what you'd call it.
Season of the Witch.
Yeah, a friend of mine said the same thing, call it Season of the Witch, or Halloween Season of the Witch. But by calling it Halloween 3, it kind of implies that it's a continuation of the, you know, the first 2 Halloweens. And
do you know why that was?
Why was it?
Just the producers of the movie, who I think John Carpenter was one of them.
Yeah, right. He was still involved at that point.
They came up with the idea that they were going to do a Halloween movie every 2 to 3 years or something.
And it'd be something different.
And it was
kind
of
of like
something different each time. The only reason they did Halloween 2 was because the end of the first one was left unopened, or open. So so they wanted to close off the Michael Myers story, and then. Like, they had the idea for Halloween 3 when they were doing Halloween 2.
They did.
So, and they were going to do, what I want to know is what the 4th one would have been had Halloween 3 taken off. But
yeah,
anyway, keep going with your...
Halloween 3 did, understandably, probably, well, I don't know, but I imagine it did pretty poorly because there wasn't a 4 until 88. So, I think a lot of, I don't know if, well, you know, back in the days of no internet, I mean, people probably weren't as I don't know if you can hear it. It's an air conditioning.
Yeah.
The middle of September, not quite needed, but whatever. Before internet, there was probably not so much way to find out about a movie, so there was probably a whole handful, if not 2 handfuls, of people who went to Halloween 3 hoping it was a continuation of Michael Myers, and maybe a lot of people walking out. Just because tickets were sold doesn't mean the ticket holder stayed the whole way through. So Halloween 3 is interesting from a retrospective point of like coming up with a different story, which I think in its own way is very interesting and very scary.
Halloween 3 is a great idea. The idea of having the Halloween franchise be a new scary event that happened on Halloween every couple of years, I think is a great idea. They wanted to essentially, from what I understand, make their own Twilight Zone franchise
which was
film
in the
world.
film world, not quite as often.
Yeah, and that is a brilliant idea because it's never ending. You could make Halloween movies every year.
Like they did with Saw for 7 years.
Yeah, you could do it every year for the next 30 years, because so long as there's stories to tell, you can always tell the story, and every once in a while come back and give a Halloween 2 Return of Michael Myers kind of thing, or continuation of Michael Myers' story. Like, had this one been a success, they might have, several years down the line, done another, like, Season of the Witch, see what happens.
Right. Well, that one's dead. I don't know where you...
But, like...